Hello, 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 everybody, and happy Monday. Today is, as you know, a holiday. We are celebrating Memorial Day. And so I wanted to, on behalf of the Jazzie Conversations with Jazz podcast, I wanted to wish everyone a great Memorial Day, but I also wanted to give homage and respect and just pure thanks to all of our servicemen and women who have fought and died for this country. On behalf of the Jazzy Conversations with Jazz podcast, thank you so much for your service, your dedication, and your sacrifice. And so we are embarking on a fantastic Monday. It is 7 p.m. And so I'm just wondering, just going to throw it out there, just going to ask you your question for today. You already know what it is because you know that I love Mondays because it is an intentional Monday, because Monday is the day that you set those intentional goals for your week. So reflect on those goals, reflect on everything that you want to accomplish this week, this month, and for the rest of the year. We are embarking on the halfway mark of 2023. So what are you going to be doing? What are you going to be accomplishing by June? June is the 6th month of the year. So hey, you're halfway through, right? So I want to hear about that. I also want to hear where you're from, where you're looking from, where you're listening from. A lot of you like to catch the replay of the podcast, and that's quite okay because I invite you to always be a part of the Jazzy crew. And in order for you guys to be a part of the Jazzy crew, all you have to do is something very simple. Subscribe on YouTube. Subscribe on all of your podcast platforms, okay? I want you to make sure that you hit that notifications bell. I want you to make sure that you rate the podcast. And I want to hear your opinion, all right? And so I have a fantastic show for you today. This is episode 82 of the Jazzy Conversations with Jazz podcast. And I have a very special guest. She and I met in Atlanta. You know, we were all up in the A. You know, she's originally from the A. And I cannot wait to get into this conversation. It's an important conversation. We're going to talk all things mental health, all things motivational and public speaking, all things single motherhood. And we're going to talk about a special event that she has coming up in September. So without further ado, I am going to bring my special guest on, Miss Phontaine Thompson. I cannot wait to hear from you. I hope you've had a fantastic day as, you know, we embark on this phenomenal week. And so I see that she's on. Don't forget to drop in the comments, you know, where you guys are from, where you guys are watching from. I see that you're here, Miss Phontaine. I'm going to try to request you because I think on YouTube, when you catch this on YouTube, hi to my YouTube fam as well. In the comment section, make sure that you like it, make sure that you subscribe, and make sure you hit that notifications bell. I need for you to make sure you do all three of those things. And so how are you?
Hi.
Beautiful. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you? You look nice.
Thank you. Thank you. So do you. I love it. I love it. Listen, I was looking at your braids on your page earlier, and I was like, I want me some braids. I gotta get me some braids.
You know, it's braid season. It's hot outside. I work early in the morning, so I'm like, let me just get some braids. I'm wearing braids the rest of the year. I already made it up. Like, I just took some down like 2 weeks ago, and I'm like, I had those since February, and I got them because I'm like, I'm wearing braids the rest of the year. It's just convenient.
Listen, you see, I got this little the ponytail going on. I'm just like, look, I'm a rock with my ponytail until this is like my in-between style. So I'm like, I'm going to give my hair a rest a little bit, but 9 out of 10, I'm in faux locks or I'm in braids. So I feel you, sis. I got you. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience?
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Phontaine Thompson. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, and I am a mental health advocate and suicide prevention advocate. I talk about all things mental health, everything that falls under the umbrella of mental health, whether that's anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts, grief. I talk about it all. I also host a conference every year called Women's Mental Health Day, and we talk about therapy We promote therapy at the conference. I have specialists and doctors come in and speak to us. And we also have a good time networking and connecting with like-minded women. It's not just a regular women's empowerment event. We actually get resources and information to help each other with our mental health, because it is a scientific fact that women suffer with mental health issues differently than men. So that's why I created this day. I also have my own mental health issues. I come from being suicidal as a teenager. I attempted suicide twice when I was 15. So that's why I'm so passionate about mental health and talking about it. My whole niche is, I want women and people in general, especially teenagers and young adults, I want them to be prevented from what I went through.
Mm-hmm. And so when you, is this your second year coming up, or your third? How many years have you been doing the mental health day for women, the Women's Mental Health Day?
Yeah, so this is our third year. And this year we're going to be special. We have a specialist coming in, and our theme is mental health and the ways it affects our sleep. So this year it is a pajama party thing. So everybody has to show up and come in their pajamas. Yeah. Like I said, I have a sleep specialist coming in, and she's going to talk about how our stress, anxiety, and depression affects our sleep, and give us tips and things we can learn about getting a great night's rest. Because not getting sleep affects our mental health also.
Right.
Because when we think about our mental health and sleep, we're thinking about not getting a good night's sleep, or not, sleeping at all, waking up, tossing and turning because you got a lot of things on your mind. Right. But we still need to know about, how it affects us when we don't get enough sleep, and how it can affect us when we do get enough rest.
Right. So how are you when it comes to dreams? Like, are you a proponent of helping people navigate through the meanings of their dreams? Is that a part of the mental health aspect to that too?
Yes, because I feel like as women, that's one thing we talk about the most, especially when it comes to our men, honey. Don't let us have a dream about no man, because we be like, oh my gosh, should I call him? No, boo, that ain't no sign. But no, we've all been there, and we've all had wonders. But I feel like when it comes to dreams are an effect of what we've been through and what we have experienced in real life. You know what I'm saying? So, when we do have those dreams about guys and things like that, it's like, he just crossed your mind in a dream. That's it. It does not mean go back to your ex or nothing like that. Right. But we have to, decide and decipher when to use the ideas and visions that come in our dreams. Because, growing up as a little girl, as young kids, we all talk about, our adults in our life talking about follow your dreams. Yeah. And it's like, okay, I want to ride on unicorns. I can't do that. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? That's not exactly. That was my dream when I was 6. So I was like, I can't follow that. That's what I think about. But all in all, sometimes we do have dreams that we should follow. You have a good night's rest, and you have a dream that you saw yourself driving a new car. It's like, okay, that gives me my goal of trying to get a new car, and I know what car I want now. Or with my conference, I woke up out of my sleep and had the idea. I don't lie when I say that. I don't really feel like it was a dream. I feel like it felt like it hit me in the chest. Yeah. And it woke me up. So I got to writing, and I literally wrote out my conference and designed my conference on one sheet of paper. Yeah. I was asleep. I was rested. I wasn't not sleeping. I wasn't stressed thinking about it. I literally just woke up and was like, oh my God, I got a good idea. Let me write it down before I forget, So, but dreams can give you ideas that are positive, and they can also give you ideas that could be negative, because, we've all had nightmares before. Right. But sometimes they mean something, and sometimes they don't.
Right. Look, I look at it all the time, because I don't dream a lot, but when I do dream, it's so vivid, and I'm the first person to wake up in the morning and I'm like, okay, let me Google this. What does this mean? And I'm gonna tell you a series of, it was 3 dreams that I had, and I'm so glad that you brought this up, because I wanted to know, well, why is it a pajama theme, this week with your conference? And so I'm so glad that you connected the dots, and so it just works perfectly with what I'm about to say. So about a month ago, I dreamt that I was in an elevator and it was plummeting, and I had to escape before it plummeted. And it's I don't even know, I used so many, like I used my resources and I ended up getting out of the elevator. And so when I went to look up the meaning of that dream, it was spot on with what I was going through. And I was like, oh my God, like this is so powerful. And then like a week ago, this is kind of morbid, but it's actually not. Like when I looked the meaning up, because it shook me. Like when you said like the nightmares or whatever, because death is something that I just really, I don't do too well with issues when it comes with death or whatever. But I dreamt vividly about someone that passed away, and I dreamt that we got married, and I was like, what in the world? It was like, as I was explaining to people around, like, that we got married, it's like we were both saying that, no, this is something that we really should not have done. And it's like when I looked up the meaning of that dream, it was something, and like people would probably think that, oh, it was about that specific person or whatever, and it really was not. It was like a overall arching meaning behind that, but that was dead on. Then like last night, I dreamt that someone like from my childhood that I was really, really good friends with, but I haven't seen him in a very long time. But I dreamt that he was, girl, I don't know, and maybe it's because I know I want some braids in my hair. I don't know what it is, but like I dreamt that he was braiding my hair. Like he was putting braids in my hair. And I was like, what does it mean, when you dream about someone doing your hair? And that dream was spot on too. And it was just like, that you are about to reconnect with someone that meant a lot to you, like from your past, or is that need or that want, that feeling of longing for someone to take care of you, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, all of this is like spot on. So it's just like, you go through the rigmarole of, okay, what did I eat? What time did I go to bed? Is this message trying to tell me something? And so I'm so invested like in the meanings of dreams, because I think they, it is something in our psyche or our subconscious that's still going, and it's trying to pinpoint it, into our life choices. And so I think that is amazing that you brought someone in to even talk about the power in our rest cycles and how that does affect our mental health. So that's I just find that to be interesting that you said that, and I'm like, oh my God, because I was going to ask her about that, and then she kind of led right into that.
Yeah, because I think, and I need to probably say that because, of course, I'm talking about the conference, but in promoting it, say, hey, come to my conference, whatever. But I think I need to push it out there more, what it's about and what the theme is about, because I feel like people may not get it and they don't know unless I tell them. But when I'm talking about it to some people, and I tell them this year we're going to be talking about mental health and the way to fit our sleep, and then I say, oh, it's a pajama party because of that. They be like, oh, I like that. But I think on Instagram, people don't really get why it's like I have a bunch of stars on my promo. I have like moons and like the dark background and the goals and the blue pajama lookbook. And I don't think they get it. So I need to probably announce on Instagram like, oh yeah, y'all, it's like we talking about sleep. But yeah, like we even have a therapist that's gonna be there. She's gonna be talking about anxiety. She actually is an anxiety specialist. Okay. So she only has clients that suffer from anxiety. So we have 3 therapists come, and one of my therapists, she actually is a child therapist, because it's a women's conference and majority of us are moms. So I make sure that we, cover our kids too, because I know a lot of women have questions when it comes to dealing with their kids and their emotions going up and down. Right. Because at the end of the day, we're growing and changing and working on ourselves, but we're raising our kids and they're going through stages of life, growing and going through growing pains and, becoming teenagers and getting ready to leave the house, graduation. We're in graduation season. So that can affect your mental health too. Like we want to talk about putting our kids in therapy, doing group family therapy with our kids. I feel like if you're going to do family therapy, you want to do it as a group, but you also want to do it one-on-one, because there are things that you might not say in the group therapy with your whole entire family that you might say one-on-one when you're with your therapist. Right. Yeah.
And it is. And it's interesting and it's very true. I just will say that, like, when I've been watching your promo, for your event, and it's like, do I need to take another trip to Atlanta? Because I'm like, I'm vested, and it's like I'm interested in in what you're going to be sharing. And so let's start from the beginning. So I know that you have a degree, well, you are a mental health specialist, et cetera. And so what made you want to get into this field? What was your why?
So I basically, what I do is I just speak about it. I go to conferences and I go to events and speak about mental health. And of course I have my own event. But the reason I'm so passionate about it and I made it my life's work is because I've dealt with my own mental health issues. Like I said in the beginning, I was to the point where I didn't want to live anymore because I was bullied really bad in middle school, like to the point where I didn't have any friends. And, you know, as a child, that's all your life is about, you know, having friends and people, your peers around you that are the same age. That's all you focus on because you don't have work, you don't have bills, you don't have kids. All you have is like school and your friends in school. And I didn't have that. Everybody bullied me. So I didn't want to live anymore. And so as an adult, you know, having my own child, I'm like, okay, I can't let anybody bully her. You know, who's going to protect her? Because, you know, I was bullied. So I'm like, okay, I got to change my whole narrative when it comes to, you know, having my own kid and working on myself. You know what I'm saying? So I got real passionate about making sure I protected my mental health, you know, being a young mom and being a first-time mom. That way I could protect her, you know. So when I got into this speaking world, I was like, okay, so what am I going to speak about? Because I definitely don't want to go on anyone's platform or stage, podcast, or panel discussion and not know what I'm talking about, right? So I just prayed on it and I talked to God because I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to do this. I knew I wanted to make a difference, and I knew I wanted to know what I'm talking about. And I was like, oh, my God, I can tell my story that I dealt with suicidal issues as a teenager, because what's better than to tell your own story, and you definitely know what you're talking about when you're doing that. So I decided to do that. And now I've, like, made it my entire passion and talk about how important it is to get help. You know, when I was suicidal at the age of 14, 15, I went to rehab for 2 weeks. You know, when you think of when people think of the word rehab, sometimes we only think about drugs and alcohol. But rehab is there for people who have issues. That's it. Yes, that person may have alcohol issues, drug issues, but being suicidal is an issue too. So I went to rehab for 2 weeks, and I was in there with other teenagers too. Like, you know, when I went to rehab, I thought it was going to be like other adults, and now I'm like, rehab, like, you know, you see the commercials or whatever. But yeah, I was in there with other kids that were dealing with the same issues I was dealing with, you know, being bullied, didn't want to live anymore, you know, fighting with their parents. And we were there getting counseling and getting the help that we needed. And my thing is, when I go to these high schools and speak, I'm there to promote therapy and make sure that the students know who their school counselor is, because that's my whole niche when it comes to talking to young adults. I didn't even know who my school counselor was when I became suicidal, and I got introduced to my school counselor. I want to go around and make sure that these students know who their school counselor is, and make sure that they know that they have the resources right here on campus to help them. But some of these students don't know their school counselor's name. So it's like somebody's not doing their job.
Somebody needs to. And I find that so disheartening that they don't know. And I see that more often when it comes to like the high school level, but like typically, you know, at the elementary level, like they love their counselor, because their counselor is supposed to go in and teach them, you know, the life lessons, the life skills, and just make it fun, you know. And then by middle school, I can kind of see where they can get lost in the sauce a little bit, because they're trying to find themselves, and it's like a school counselor is like the least of what they're trying to even worry about. And so it is very important for, you know, school counselors to make themselves, you know, present. And I know that every school that I've been at, you know, if it was in an administrative, well, it wasn't an administrative role, it's like, you know, more so than these kids knowing about their 504, their IEP, or whatever the case may be, or getting them accommodations for testing, like we got to be proactive, because at that middle school age, like that's the age that I really, really, really worry about the bullying aspect. And so when you think back on that time when you were bullied, do you feel that you gave anyone any indication that you were thinking about suicide? Because you attempted it twice. And so I wonder, when you look back, do you see there being any telltale signs?
Oh, I know for a fact there weren't, because at the moment it happened, within that moment where I had thoughts about it, within the weeks, the days, and the hours of thinking about it, or I was going to bed crying. My mom was also going through a divorce herself. She was divorcing my stepdad, and they had been together for 13 years.
Yeah.
So with her going through a divorce with a marriage she was in for 13 years, she was going through her own depression and her own stress, that I'm not going to say she necessarily neglected me. She just didn't see something that was happening right in front of her face.
Yeah.
And I was always quiet. So I wasn't, it wasn't like I was like, a regular kid, and then all of a sudden I declined in my behavior. I was always kind of quiet and shy. That's why I was an easy target when it came to being bullied. But she was going through her own problems as an adult, that she didn't see that her baby girl was having issues. Because I wasn't telling anybody the girls in school were picking on me either. Because, you don't want to be a snitch.
Yeah.
So you a tattletale, you snitching and all this kind of stuff. That's not, how it is in the Black community, how we talk about being a snitch. So that was also a factor too. It didn't come out until we had health class. And in health class, you talk about sex, you talk about your body changing, and you also talk about drugs. And one of the things they talked about that day was being suicidal. And it had just happened for me the night before. So that was the very first time I had ever had not even a conversation. It was just, they put a movie on, Yeah, it was a movie. It wasn't even nobody. The teacher wasn't even teaching. It was just a movie. And the girl, actually, actor in the video, in the demonstration, she killed herself because she was getting bullied in school. Yeah. And they talked about what suicide is, and talked about being depressed, and if somebody's messing with you, speak up. I was in class and I broke down crying because I had literally less than 24 hours, the night before that, attempted my second attempt. So,
but what did you do? Was it like pills or?
So the first time, nobody ever asked me that. I'm so thankful you asked me that. Nobody ever asked me that. So the first time it was pills, and it was just ibuprofen or whatever pain medicine my mom had, because that's all I knew about. When it come to pills, like my parents are, I'm 13, they young, so they not on prescription drugs or nothing like that. It was just like ibuprofen or whatever, and I took like maybe 5, thinking that was gonna do something, because when I was in pain or something, my mama gave me like 2, so I'm thinking 5 was gonna do something. And then the very next day, because I did them back to back, so 2 suicide attempts back to back. It wasn't weeks, months. The second day it was a razor, and I cut myself, and I still have scars to this day, but I didn't cut deep enough. And the next day at school, I just wrapped my arm up and I wore long sleeves to school. But broke down crying in class that next day and told my teacher what I did. And I went to the counselor's office and I told her what I did. She called my mom, and my mom stopped what she was doing and came up to the school.
Yeah, and of course.
The counselor made me tell my mom what I did. Like when she came in and she talked. I think she just told my mom something was wrong with Phontaine, and my mom, she did, my mom was that mom. She stopped what she was doing, came up there. And when she got there, the counselor didn't tell her. She made me tell her, and I showed her my wrist. And that day I left school and went to rehab and then come back for 2 weeks.
Do you feel like when you look back on that situation, do you feel that everything was handled properly now that you have, your backing with it, your education, your degree? Do you feel that situation was handled properly, like the way that it should have been?
I do, and it's all because of my school counselor. Like my mom and her really tag teamed me, and my school counselor made me come to her office every day until the last day of school. And to this day, I always say she saved my life. On top of rehab and I'm not gonna sugarcoat anything. I was on medication. I was on antidepressants, and I'm all for antidepressants. When you can take them. I was only 14, so I was young. So, and I wasn't on any anything else that counteracted, but it worked for me. I remember the feeling I felt when I took my antidepressants. But with her, she made me journal.
Yeah.
And, journaling is a lot for a teenage girl. Like that was the thing, having a diary and a journal.
Yeah.
She introduced me to journaling, and I still have that same journal to this day.
Yeah.
And then she had me come to her office every single day. So you talking about some serious, hardcore counseling every day. Now you probably go like maybe once a week if it's that intense, or if you're just doing, if nothing's really bad, you just go once a month. But I was going every single day I went to school. I had to go. And I was having my lunch in there. I would go get my lunch, and I would go to her office and spend my lunch in there. And we just talked. She didn't force anything out of me. She didn't ask me any type of questions. We just talked. And I like that because that's what I need. I need somebody to talk to. Right. And when I see what she did, like when I got older, I see what she did because she just let me talk, and that opened up everything. Yeah. Because that's all I needed to do was talk. She didn't have to ask me anything because guess what? I was telling her anyway. So I use that same concept with my daughter now. I always tell Nyla, you could tell me anything. And if you come to me and say, Mommy, I got to tell you something, I'll stop what I'm doing. I'll get off this live with you now. My daughter, she wasn't at the fair. And she came in and she was like, Mama, I'm like, girl, I got to go. I'll be right back. You know what I'm saying? I was stop. So what I do is it's called an open door policy. Okay. And you don't say anything. You just sit there and listen. You say, okay, but you don't chime in until they're done. And you got to be mindful of what are they looking for by telling me this. Are you looking for advice, or are you looking to just vent?
Right. Right. That is very powerful, and it's so useful. And because being in the school system, like you learn all of these things. Like they have so many different programs out there now for teachers, for personnel, anyone, like training that you have to take in order to look for the telltale signs of if a child is having suicidal thoughts, and what do you do if they tell you that they've thought about these things. And so I try not to overdo it with my kids because I have the knowledge of what to do, and the open door policy that you stated, like I say it all the time, and I posted it on my Facebook page. It was like earlier this year because I couldn't believe it. Like my son, who's in 9th grade, like I was asking him questions at first because I'm always trying, like, do you have friends? Like because not necessarily comparing yourself, but it's like, okay, well, at this age, this is what I was doing. And I'm just like, well, is he happy? Because he's so quiet. He's so different. Like he can maneuver in and out of any type of social group, but it's like, okay, he's not always on the phone with someone, or I'm looking at all of these things, and I'm like, number one, he's a boy. He's a pandemic child, basically. Yeah. So all they do is talk through video games. So I'm like, well, if that's the case, he's talking all the time. So we're good with that. But I asked him some questions, and then I was like, okay, well, I'll respect your privacy, and just know that whenever you do want to talk to me, I want to. And I explained to him why I wanted to speak to him. I just said, I just want to make sure you're okay. I love you, da da da. And he just started talking. And it was so many times where I had to be like, shut up.
No, I didn't. No, they can go a mile a minute. They can go a mile a minute. No, I always tell people, I'm like, I know all the business in my school. She be telling me about every little girl and what they be doing, all her friends. I know everybody and who they with and what they did last week and who did what and who got in a fight. I know it all because Nyla be telling me. She tell me. And I'm like, I did say I wanted this open door policy, didn't I?
Right. I'm like, look, and he's a Virgo. He's just like, so I'm like, whenever he talks, I'm like, okay, let me shut up, because I don't want to make him stop, because he's like, you got to dig for the information, and I'm just like, oh my God, he's talking to me, and he continues to talk, and he's talking, and I'm like, I just had to keep reminding myself, let him talk, don't interrupt him, like, think about it all later. In my head, I was trying to record it. I'm like, okay. But so I think that's so important. I just, just putting myself and thinking of what I would do. Like if I had that, you know, had gone through what you've gone through,
Mhm.
I think I would be so extra cautious as a parent. And you know, just wondering how do you view yourself as a parent, going through the experiences that you've gone through? Do you feel like you're like a helicopter mom? Do you feel like you're like less hands on because of it, or you've learned that middle balance?
I'm sorry, my phone was moving. So that's another thing I wanted to touch on. So with my mom, she that kind of opened the door for her to talk to me more, because before that, even, you know, before she was going through her divorce, she wasn't really, we didn't really have a relationship outside of her raising me and disciplining me and telling me what to do. We didn't have a mother-daughter, oh, come talk to me, you know, how was your day at school, you know, what do you want to wear, what's your favorite color? I honestly don't think my mom knew what my favorite color was. Like, it was easy to know that Mariah Carey was my favorite artist because I wouldn't allow anybody else on my wall, you know. Nobody was allowed on my wall but Mariah Carey. So it's like, that was a known, because I was the one cutting out the pictures and putting them everywhere. I had a shrine in my room to her. But everything else, I don't think my mom really knew about me. But it took 30 years for me to realize, like, my mom came from somewhere where that wasn't the case for her either. Right. So she was just trying her best, you know. But I said, when I became a mom, and this is answering your question, I was going to break that generational curse. And that's why I have an open door policy with my daughter. So I give my daughter some of the same things that my mom gave me that were really good and raised me right, because at the end of the day, I am a product of my mom raising me, but I also give her the things that I was missing.
Yeah.
You know, and I've heard somebody say that, you know, you are the person today that you needed when you were a teenager. And I'm like, if I had someone talking to me about like mental health and my feelings, and, you know, letting me talk to them without no judgment and giving me advice on being a young lady, I could have turned out so differently. And my mom was not that. But when I found out her mother wasn't that either, she couldn't give it to me because she had never got it. My mom eventually told me that. She said, Phontaine, I wanted my mama to come talk to me so bad. But my mom telling me this, and I'm at 28, and I'm like, I wanted you to come talk to me so bad. And I was wondering, like, why didn't you do that with me then? I had my daughter, so I had my daughter at 18. So I was a teenager. I had already graduated high school, but here come this baby. My mom was 30. My mom was way into her 30s when she had her first two. So my mom had a whole adult life, being in her 20s, having a good time, you know, whatever. And then here comes some babies. But she was grown.
Yeah.
I'm 18 having a baby. So it's a different dynamic. But yeah, my mom, she finally told me, she was like, I wanted my mom to come to me so bad and talk to me. But she never did. I'm like, then why didn't you change the narrative with your own daughter? So I took it upon myself and changed the narrative. When I'll never forget, when the ultrasound technician told me it was a girl, I broke down crying because I did not want to raise my daughter the way my mom raised me. Like, you know, like I said, I gave my daughter the things that I know my mama gave me that were good, but I also I'm giving my daughter the things that I missed out on when it comes to that motherly love. You know, I have a great godmother, and I lived with her for 3 years, and she gave me what I needed out of a mom. And I'm not knocking my mother like at all. I love my mom. You know, before she passed, I would have gave her the world or tried to. You know what I'm saying? But when it comes to that different type of relationship where you feel comfortable talking to your mom without judgment, my godmother gave me that. You know, and I try my best to give that to my daughter. And I think I'm doing a pretty good job because my daughter, she talks to me. She's comfortable talking to me. She's comfortable telling me anything. You know, she still gets nervous, but she knows open door policy. And one thing, I think the number one thing when it comes to my daughter, she know I got her back.
Yeah.
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 She
That
never
makes
got
a
her back.
difference. That
Yeah.
makes a huge difference. Like that trust aspect when you tell somebody that you can talk to me, but then it's like, well, when I do talk to you, what's my response? Like what's the, what's the end result of that? And so if you've built that trust with her, that's an amazing thing to have. I was wondering when you said you asked your mom, well, why is it that you couldn't give me that, what you needed, if you realized that your mom couldn't do that? Did she ever give you that question or that answer to that question?
Again, I think my mom was dealing with some issues with when it came to the way I was conceived.
Yeah.
And that's still a mystery and always going to be a mystery. I've accepted it. I don't know anything about the way I was conceived because I don't know my actual blood father. I think the way I was conceived has something to do with my mom not really like leaning into having a daughter.
Yeah.
Like some women, like, especially my mom, she was a girly woman. She was a lady, like, wore colors and earrings, pantyhose and heels and all that kind of stuff. Most girly girls are excited about having a daughter because I get to dress somebody up like a Barbie doll. You know what I'm saying? I can style her. I get to pick out what she gonna wear, her hair and all that kind of stuff. Right. And I don't think my mom was leaning in on that. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And I don't want to knock my mom. Like baby, she had my back. Like, let somebody mess with me. Yeah. It's on. You know what I'm saying? She loved me. I know for sure. Like, that's never up for debate. She loved me. And she would have did anything for me. It's just, I just think it was something to do with the way I was conceived. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, I can't ask. There's nobody else around to ask. Nobody knows. But I've come to terms with it. Of course, I'm always think about it, but it doesn't bother me where it affects me as an adult. Like, because I have a great relationship with a man who's my real father, and he is almighty, all-knowing. You know what I'm saying? Right. He's had my back since day one. He never changes. He been here since the beginning. He gonna be here tomorrow until the last day. Yes, and sir. I'm fine with that relationship. Yes,
I am right there with you. Do you hear me? Like, absolutely. When you think back on the things that you've gone through, because your story that you just said to me and the things that you've gone through, like, they resonate with me, like, even with the dynamic of the relationship of my mother, and you're all things, mental health. But what piece of advice, maybe even what steps, suggestions you would give to someone in that same predicament, like a mother who can't show a daughter that love or a son that love that she craved because she went through the same thing? Like, what would you suggest they do in order to break that toxic cycle?
So, depending on the age of the child, if the child is younger,
if we're grown.
Oh, okay.
Because grown people are set in their ways, so we're gonna get grown.
So here's the thing. I'm gonna say this. This is what I say this faithfully. My friends know I say this too much. Actually, this is my saying. I've never, and when I say never, I've never sugarcoated for my daughter. So I'm not gonna sugarcoat for adults. Mm-hmm. When it comes to teaching her things, I've given her the raw truth, because I'd rather for her to hear from me first, the truth about it, than hear from her friends or just the internet, right?
Right.
So when it comes to adults, I'm not going to sugarcoat either. So if we're talking about a mother-daughter, mother-son relationship with the kid is grown, we have to be honest.
Right.
There's something going on with the parent. There's some type of dynamic that's going on because, again, people get set in their ways, like you said, especially when we get older. And if you got a grown adult child, you're older, you might be set in your ways. Talk. Yeah. Tell your child what is up, like really what's up. You know what I'm saying? I always say half of who we are I feel like once we hit like 25 and older, half of who we become as an adult is half our fault and half our parents' fault.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that part where it's half our parents' fault, there's something up in there. So I feel like as a parent, parents need to be honest with their kids, especially if they're adults. Like say, hey, I struggled raising you. It was not fun. Yeah. I wanted you to avoid what I was going through, or I didn't have a good relationship with your father. So it made me take that on you, or I didn't get any type of love growing up from my parents. So I took that on you. I didn't know how to really raise you. I just knew how to like just tell you what not to do and do. I didn't grow up in a household that talk about emotions. I didn't grow up in a household that talked about therapy and talked about feelings and getting hugs and stuff like that. That's something we need to be honest with. People are in denial, you know, and people are scared to admit to their kids, somebody that looks up to them, that I'm weak. And we got to stop that. You're human too. And on the kids' point of view, first thing we need to understand is our parents were whole people before we were born. Right. You know, we can't, I'll never sit up here and say, like, even if I eventually get married, I'm not going to put nothing in my vows to say I was half a person. I'm whole now that I met you. I don't even say that to my daughter. Right, like, I can't say my life is complete because of my child. My life is good for hell. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, no, you're a whole person doing your own thing before you were a parent. So your parent, you know, went through things before you exist. Mm-hmm. They had opinions about life. They did some things that they might not be proud of before they had you, and they're sheltering you from. But as a child, we have to understand that. So when we do go to them and say, hey, mom, hey, dad, I don't feel comfortable, and I feel comfortable now to talk to you about, you know, stuff that went on in my life, or that I feel like I'm bold enough now to talk to you about. I just want to talk to you, have a conversation with you about it. Are you open to that? When you do that, you have to come in with a, you know, give them, give them, show them a little grace. Give them the benefit of the doubt. And know that they were a whole person before they were your mom. Mm-hmm. You know? We can, all parents can think back to who they were before they were parents. Woo! You know, and it's like I've done some things that I would never tell my daughter. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So it's like we have to show our parents grace too, because no matter how much money you have, and no matter how much help you have, at the end of the day, we're just trying our best. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're just trying our best. So we have to show our parents some grace too, when we, you know, come to them and say, hey, you did something that hurt me and it's still affecting me to this day. Yeah. I like that a lot. And it's that open dialogue. And I just, you know, it's easy, and it makes the most sense. It's like that you would think that that's what people think and know that that's what they're supposed to do, but I think that it's difficult for them to make the decision to be honest and to be open and to take the necessary steps that if they don't know how to do it, if they can't fix it themselves, then you need to seek out counsel to do it. And sometimes it's not going to just work with just you praying, you know, because God created therapy, you know, and so it's like, let's take it a step further. I like that. I like that. Let's pray. You said something. Yeah, you said something about, you know, people changing. And I learned this a long time ago, and I never forgot it. Think about something you want, somebody that's close to you, right? It's something about them that you want to change. You love them, and you're not going anywhere, but it's something about them that you don't like, and you want them to change, right? Mm-hmm. But if we take a step back and look in the mirror, think about the things you want to change about yourself, and think how hard that is. So what makes, like, you can look in the mirror and know that you want to change something about yourself, and you know how hard that is. So imagine how hard it is for you to be telling somebody else to change something. Yeah. When you can't even change things, how hard it is for you to change things about yourself. So, yeah, you said it. So if someone is seeking therapy, because admittedly,
because you're right. Like the one thing that I do want to change, because it's like, I truly do believe that everyone at some point should seek therapy. I don't think that, I think sometimes therapy can be proactive versus being a solution for something that you're going through, that you're dealing with. And so for a while, like, I've wanted to, explore it and try it, because I do feel like there's some things that I need to let go of. There are some things that I need to move past. I feel like there's some blockage, somewhere. And so what is your advice on someone seeking counsel? Because in my brain, in this little educated brain, I'm like, okay, let me check down the credentials. I think I want a African American female, and then it's like, no, I think I may need an African American male because I don't got time. So I'm just like, what? How do you find the perfect therapist? Like, what questions? Where should you seek? What's my first step?
That sounds familiar. When somebody says, how do you seek the perfect therapist? That sounds like dating.
Right. And
listen,
I still can't say that. I'm going to go on a date and all that, but I'm like, he ain't came through the window yet.
I promise you, every therapist on this earth will tell you, finding a good therapist is like dating.
Yeah.
It's exactly like dating. There are plenty of stories of people out there breaking up with their therapists.
Yeah.
That sounds familiar, doesn't it? Because if you think about looking for a man. Are you single? I'm sorry. I don't try to pry.
No, yes.
Okay.
I am.
Okay, so me too.
I don't want to be
like, so let's do this.
I am, girl.
I am. No, let's do it. I am too. Let's do it. So we have a list, don't we?
We do.
Right. Because we are somewhere in our life where we're like, okay, I know what type of man I want.
Yeah.
Because you don't want the same type of man you wanted when you was 18.
Right.
Right? Mm-hmm. It's different now. We're grown. We established our own lives. So, same thing with therapy. The same therapist you would have had at 18, you wouldn't have now. Because you've grown. You've gone through a little bit more in life. You need somebody different that can handle this and this and that. You might meet somebody and you might be telling them all your business, and you getting to know them, and they're helping you when you first start out, maybe the first couple of months, but then all of a sudden it just turned, and it's like, I didn't think she was going to be talking to me and giving me this type of advice. I don't feel comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Or they are doing a good job, but you still are missing something, right? That's therapy. Because you could be in a relationship with a guy and he could be giving you what you think or you thought you wanted, but then something is still missing. Therapy is like that too. That person could actually be doing a good job, with your therapy sessions, but you still feel like you're missing something. I can contest to that. I just had to find my therapist a couple of months ago because it was something that I was missing. I wasn't given any work to do. I was just on this call, and I was just talking and telling my feelings, but I still was dealing with the same issues and nothing was changing. I realized what I needed. I need cognitive behavioral therapy. I just discovered that. Cognitive behavioral therapy is therapists that give you work to do to fix your problems. I'm like, that's what I need, because like when I was in high school and in college and I was doing them projects and I knew I was getting them right, I would break my leg trying to get to class, trying to show my teacher, like, look what I did, look what I did. So that's what type of therapy I need. I need something that's gonna give me some, like, after my session, be like, Phontaine, this is what I want you to do, and I want you to come back and tell me, boom, 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 right? That's what I need. I need a therapist that's gonna give me some homework.
Listen, so I'm still over here trying to be my own therapist. Like, I think this is what you need to do because you haven't dealt with this issue. This issue is not resolved, and in order for you to move on, you need to address this. But I'm sitting here like, I'm not going to do that. Like, I'm just like, not.
But let me say this. I want to say this because I definitely want to put this out here. If you're on the fence about it, don't go.
Yeah.
If you know for a fact you want to go to therapy and you need it, go. But if you're on the fence, like, oh, I don't think I need it. Oh, you know what? I think I do. Oh, no, I don't think I. Don't go.
Yeah.
You have
now,
to
why do you
be
say
certain.
that?
You have to be certain, and you have to not be in denial.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you are in denial about your issues, do not go, because you're going to be wasting your money and you're going to be wasting the therapist's time. Do not go. But people who really don't want to go, there are people who don't want to go, and but they feel like they do have issues, but they don't want to go to therapy. There are plenty of other things you can do to help yourself. There's journaling. There's reading about it. You can get the information about it from books. There are plenty of doctors that have written books about getting through your issues, getting through grief and trust issues and mommy issues and daddy issues. There are books you can read. You can go for a walk. You can work out. You can join a gym and work on your mental health like that. You can do self-care, do some meditation. You know what I'm saying? There's plenty other things you can do outside of going to see a therapist to take care of your mental health. So I don't want to sit here and be like, oh, no, go to therapy, go to therapy, go to therapy. Yes, I'm going to always say go to therapy. But you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So, yeah.
So,
but like I said, if you're on the fence, don't go. But if you know you need to go and you want to go, go. But if you really, really do not want to go at all, there are other things you can do.
Yeah. And I thank you for saying that, just to keep the realness in the conversation, but then like the conversation open as well. So like if someone is just struggling about where do I start, where does someone start to even try to find, I know my starting point. If I want to date, I'm going to go on dating apps, etc., or I'm going to talk to a friend and they may, reference or whatever. But where do you go if you're trying to look for a reliable therapist? Because I know that there are sites, but is there one that you like more than the others?
Well, the first thing I always tell people when I get asked this question is always go on your insurance website. Every insurance company has a website of providers, and you can go on there and put in exactly what you need. You need an OBGYN, a dentist, a primary care. They have psychologist option on there too. Just like they have OBGYN, dentist on your insurance, they have psychologists on there to pick from, and they can stay in your network. That way you're not searching for people who are not in your network. But also, I feel like the number one thing is Psychology Today. It's the dating website for therapists. Yeah. So literally, let me tell you something. I wish dating websites were like this. They need to take notes. Because on Psychology Today, you can put in Black, Hispanic, Caucasian. You can put in Aetna, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Medicaid, Medicare. You could put in the things that you want. LGBTQ related. You could put in someone who does cognitive behavior therapy like I need. Somebody who deals with gay males, somebody who deals with gay women, somebody who deals with transgender, somebody who only helps with Black people who have Black issues, or somebody who deals with somebody who just got married, somebody who only deals with kids. Like, you can actually put in what you're looking for to the T. And I wish it was like that with the dating website.
Yes.
Like, don't waste my time. Don't waste my time. You know what I'm saying?
I'm just like, I don't want to do it. Get somebody else to do it.
So I feel like the first thing people need to do is, of course, visit their insurance website, because that way you're really going to find somebody within your network when it comes to your insurance. But on Psychology Today, you can put in your Blue Cross, your Aetna, your United, all those, so you can, still find somebody in your network. So, you won't be like, oh, no, we don't take your insurance. Nope. I already searched for somebody to take Blue Cross Blue Shield. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
We talked about, and thank you for that, because I know that that's going to be helpful. And actually, I'm going to look on that tonight, just so you know. So thank you. You helped the sister out. I'm going to make sure I go and do that, just seriously.
Yeah.
Because I'm not in denial. Like, I do feel like, therapy would be a great thing, for me in my life. But we covered early on, it was a heavy issue, and it was an issue that's still prevalent. And I don't want to skate over it without really just offering, solid advice, solid information, especially since you've gone through it. You spoke about, just suicide prevention, and what I would like to talk about suicide prevention because, you know, you talked about your bout with suicidal thoughts and then attempting, you know, to commit suicide. And personally, I even know people who have had thoughts. They've shared those thoughts with me. I've had people who have experienced where a loved one has attempted suicide. And so for someone who may be thinking about, you know, suicide, someone who's dealing with it, what advice or what help would you suggest that they seek?
Whew. The first thing I want them to do is realize that I'm not going to give the cookie cutter response and say that, oh, you're not alone. We know that. You know, the world has over I think really 8 trillion people in it. Like, we know we're not alone. That's the cookie cutter response. But when you're in the moment and you're in what you're going through, you do feel alone.
Yeah.
And the one thing they feeling is like that I can relate to is that they just don't want to be here anymore. And I know what it feels like.
Yeah.
And they feel like that's the only solution. You know what I'm saying? And it's not. There are people here who love you. There are people who would love to help you. But what people need to realize, and if anybody out there is having suicidal thoughts, what they need to realize is I can't help you unless you tell me you need help.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And I feel like a lot of times when people are suicidal, my story included, no one knew what I was going through.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if I would have told someone, I could have got the help, and I did. And I got the help. But I got it after my attempt. So if I would have told someone before, I wouldn't have ever got to that point where I attempted.
So when you go to school,
to tell someone.
You have to tell people. So that's your platform, basically, when you go out to schools and you do public speaking on the issue and you talk about suicide prevention. The number one thing is getting to that place where you have enough courage, or you have at least one person that you can trust to talk to. Is that's the go-to?
Yeah. Just talking about it and getting the help and not feeling judged. I think that's what especially when it comes to teens, you know, they living in a totally different atmosphere than we lived in. Like, this thing we're on right now is like killing them. Social media is killing them, because I sit back and be like, oh my God, I'm so glad social media wasn't out when I was in my 20s, because I was acting a fool. Like, oh my God, I don't know what I'd do if the stuff I did in my 20s was here and never left out here for the world to see. So they're living in a different world, you know. So you talking about not just dealing with bullying from people you know and see every day. You might be dealing with bullying from people that you don't even know, and it can really hurt you, you know. But when it comes to kids, they deal with so many different things and so many emotions, because not only are they, you know, might be dealing with the kids around them, they're dealing with their own bodies changing. They're dealing with their own thoughts that can be extreme, because their brain is so young and it's functioning in a different way, and they're having feelings that are like intense, you know. Because you like, when you ever met a girl that was in love at 15, it was so intense. Like, oh my God, this the one. Like, oh, what? You know, so everything is intensified. You know, the love, like, just like I talked about Mariah Carey being on my wall when I was 13, could nobody else get on my wall? Nobody. The love I had for her was intense because I was so young. My brain was like, So even the same love I had for her, or the same love I had for my first love at 15, just intense as that is, it's intense when I was depressed. It was intense when I was suicidal. So having those depressive thoughts, you know, they really feel like there's nobody else in the world going through what they're going through, you know. And when you open up and you talk to someone, you'll be surprised, and you can sit back and be like, oh my God, like, me too, or me too, you know, having that community, that openness to communicate. But I feel like the number one thing when it comes to kids, they just want somebody to listen to them.
Mm-hmm.
They wanna be able to talk. That's why, like, my brother doesn't have any kids, but my friends' kids that I call my nieces and nephews, when they're around me, they get completely spoiled because they have enough people in their life telling them what to do. They have enough adults in their life telling them what to do on a daily basis. I don't want them coming around me dealing with that.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna have fun. We're gonna have a good time. We're gonna cuss. I ain't gonna tell your mom. We're gonna cuss. We're gonna talk about boys and stuff like that. Like, now when it comes to my own daughter, that's different. But when I'm with my friends' kids, we have fun. Like, they be hanging out with a girlfriend, like a homegirl.
Mm-hmm.
They have enough adults in their life that don't listen to them, don't want to hear what they gotta say, telling them what to do every 5 minutes. How about that one adult that you can get around, that you ain't got to deal with it, and then that person listen? You'll be surprised what these kids tell you if you just listen.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have a lot of nieces and nephews that have spilled the tea, and I'm listening. Yes. If all you gotta do is tell me not to tell nobody, I'll be like, okay, I won't even tell myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But if you tell, but I am honest with them, because like I told you, I don't sugarcoat. I do tell them, you can tell me whatever you want to tell me, but if you tell me something that's harming you, or you ever tell me something about you harming yourself, then we gotta bring your mama in, or we gotta bring your daddy in. But everything else, child, I won't even tell myself. I ain't hear this. What you said? I don't even remember what you said. Yeah. You know, all these kids want is somebody to listen to them. I promise you, that's all they want.
And I do believe that. I do believe that that point, and even adults, you know, because it's always, like you said, that state of feeling depressed is that loneliness, like, that you feel that you're in this by yourself, and sometimes you just don't know how to deal with those emotions. And so, you know, I truly believe that, and I say this all the time on my podcast, but I say that I truly believe that one can come back from anything with God, the right resources, and just the willingness to want to put in the work. And so I think that, you know, people who are working with younger kids, they don't know how to process what they're going through. They don't know how to do some of those fundamental things when it comes to communication. And so, like you said, getting to know who your school counselor is, and most important, you know, when you're dealing with all kids, is just knowing your kids and knowing their cycles, and just being there for them, and just knowing that if you are not that person that they can talk to, is truly intentionally linking them with someone who can, whether it is a therapist or whether it is someone outside of it. Like I watched this movie on Netflix the other day, and it's called The Son. And so they said it was based off of one of the characters, an experience that she had gone through. And I don't know, that thing just did something to me. And so I knew that I was going to have this conversation with you today, but I'm like, this kid, like, basically he went through something similar to what you went through. You know, he was with his parents, and then they got a divorce. And so, like, his dad went on and basically had another family. And so it's just like his mother was pleading on his dad's doorsteps one day, like, I need you to get him, because I'm fearful of him. Like, he hasn't been going to school. I didn't know he wasn't going to school. And by this time he was in high school. And it's like, the dad let him come and stay. And it's like, it was just like this, the movie was just about a whole lot of reflecting times of, did I see this at this particular age, or like, what was he doing? And it's like, I was just like, my God, like, but the parents, they took him to therapy. You know, they did what they were supposed to do, but one of the things that just really resonated with me was that when he had like a meltdown, because he was a cutter, and I know that you said that that's one thing that you tried to do, like your second attempt, but he was a cutter. Like, he explained to his dad, like, he just broke down, and he was just like, this is what takes the pain away. Like, when I have this pain, it makes me focus on this pain versus the outside pain that I feel like every single day. And it was just so heartbreaking to see the story. Like, I don't want to tell the movie, but it basically lent itself to the therapy component, that he needed to stay in therapy, you know. And so I just hope and pray, you know, like, just know that God is a miracle worker, you know, through all things. You know, you can do all things through Christ, but it's like, you do have to do the work, and you do have to you do have to seek help, you know. And so I just hope that this episode blesses someone who may have suicidal thoughts, you know someone who has, if you are a kid watching it, because girl, my students be on here sometimes. And so I want everybody to just take these nuggets, and just really utilize them, because you are here and you're supposed to be here, and just don't be afraid to seek the help that you need.
Yeah.
And so I love, after doing research on you and looking at your page and reading your bio, I love the work that you're doing. And I love the work that you are doing specifically. You're welcome. I love the work that you're doing specifically with women. And so it's funny because I met you like networking. So it was just like, we're at this podcasting event, and I'm like, first of all, like, how was that for you? And will I see you again in Atlanta next year at this podcast?
Yes, I will be back. Like, and I know I met you because I was I think you came up to me and you gave me your card.
I did.
Yeah. It's so funny because I was only, like, I don't have a podcast. I was only there looking for podcasts to get on. Like, I was like, that's something I'm doing as far as networking, because I want to get on other people's platforms and, of course, talk about my conference, but, of course, talk about what I talk about is mental health. So after you gave me your card, the lady sitting next to me, she was like, she gave you your card. She got a decent podcast. You should go around and see who else has a podcast that you can get on. And after that, I just, like, every time they had like a little break in between the podcasts, I walked around and asked them. I was like, you got a podcast? I would love to be on your podcast. Da-da-da. So, yeah, I will be there next year doing the same thing. I don't have a podcast, but I'm going to go out there and talk up and tell my story, introduce myself to people. But everybody there hardly anybody was there in Atlanta. Like, majority of everybody was out of town.
Out of town. And that's what I really loved. And I was like, look, I put my networking hat on. Okay. And so I did the thing. And so I did, intentionally network. And so it was like, when you reached out to me, I was like, yes, I absolutely do. Like, after seeing your page and seeing what your event was about, I was like, absolutely. And so, like, just leading into that, what successes have you seen from doing this event? Because now you're doing it for a third time this year on September 9th, this year in Atlanta. So I want to know, how have you tapped into your purpose with this event, this Women's Mental Health Day?
Yeah, so, oh my God, this is a thing now. So my conference is like a thing. Like, when I first started it, people were like, okay, girl, okay, whatever. Like, but I think after last year, the second year, I think people were like, okay, she's really doing this. Like, this is a thing now. So, yeah, I'm speaking at 4 conferences this year because of my conference. I have been invited to speak on podcasts, and people, like, I'm networking still in Atlanta, getting my not my podcast, but my conference name out there. But the doors that have opened up, I have been invited to speak at schools now. And like, even next year, somebody invited me to come out and speak at a 8th grade graduation. And I'm like, oh my God, like, what? I signed up for this. I better take it. Like, I think, that goes in with God's blessings, because it's like, I thought this is what you wanted. Absolutely. I feel like he does that. He feel like he lean in and be like, that's what you said you wanted to do. Like, I'm giving you the blessings. What you gonna do with them now? What's up? You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I am so excited about everything that's coming out of Women's Mental Health Day. I'm so happy. I've already spoken at like 3 events already this year, but in the midst of planning my own conference. But I'm just excited, and I'm just excited on what God has for me. More and more is to come. Women's Mental Health Day is growing, and I'm really excited about this year. I'm really excited. We're gonna have fun. We're gonna network and things like that. But more importantly, we're gonna get the information. Like, I want you there. I want everybody to come that's open to getting the information and meeting new women and networking. Because we do have, like, I take 30 minutes out the conference, and we have a networking session where we talk about, we go around the room, and we, like, a real networking session. You go around the room, meet someone, and I put 3 questions on the board where you say your name, you say what it is that you do, and you also say, what are your goals for the next 30 days? Because we know what we want our business to look like overall in the future, But what are your goals in the next 30 days? Like a short-term goal, right?
Yeah,
I think that's one thing we don't think about is like, what are our 30-day goals, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the question, you know, we tell each other when we're networking at my conference, because that person you're talking to may be the person that can help you with that.
Right.
And if they're not, maybe they know the person that can help you with that. I actually got invited to speak at a conference through meeting someone at another networking event. It wasn't that person who could put me in the conference room. I mean, on the stage. It was somebody they knew who could put me on the stage. Yeah. And so I'm going to Nashville this summer to speak at a conference. And I don't even know this woman. I got introduced to her through somebody I met in a networking event here in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. So that person that you're talking to might not be able to help you with your 30-day goals, but they may know someone, you know. Right. Recently, last week, I went to a networking event, and I met the city of Atlanta mayor's advisor, and I told him about my goal about going around the schools and speaking about mental health and suicide prevention. He was like, "Oh my God, let me get your information." The city of Atlanta has grants and money for that, and he knows about it. So you got to get out here and tell people what it is you want. So that's why we do the networking segment at my conference. Like, yeah, this is a mental health conference. We're going to talk about mental health. We're going to get these pictures. You're going to get some good pictures. So bring your camera, your ring light, get some good Instagrammable pictures. But I want y'all to meet people. Networking is the key when you have your own business and your own brand. You know, you got to get out here and tell people about what it is that you do. Bring your business cards. I don't care if you have a conference that's the same as mine. Tell people about it. How they going to come? You can be at my conference promoting your conference. I'm not going to be offended about that because I'm coming to your conference. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, networking is like the one thing we talk about the most. You know, not the most, but we do have that little 30-minute segment at the conference networking.
Yes. So with your conference, and since this is your third time doing it, what has settled in your psyche, like in your soul, where you're like, okay, I am Phontaine Thompson, and this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, what have you tapped into that you know for a fact that you're supposed to be doing and nobody else does it like you?
I'm not the typical cookie cutter presenter when it comes to when I talk. You know, when I talk on stages, you're going to get the ATL homegirl Phontaine, you know, when it comes to, even in my conference, like, I don't be on my conference trying to, you know, it's not death by PowerPoint. So yeah, I'm going to talk to y'all just like you're a homegirl. You know, I'm not going to change up or switch up or, you know, code switching. You know, I know when to code switch. But when it's my event and my conference, you're going to get the real Phontaine, okay? Like, you know, so I feel like I don't sugarcoat. So I think that's one thing that I, you know, realize that people lean into when it comes to my conference. Yeah. You know, I'm going to tell you, like, you know, when I go to these networking events, they be like, oh, what are you here networking, you know, networking about? What do you do? And I'm like, I'm just here to sell tickets to my conference. Like, I'm gonna tell you the truth. I'm not gonna sit up and be like, girl, oh, I'm a mental health specialist. I'm a mental health advocate. Yes, I am, but I want you to buy these tickets.
Gotcha. I got you.
But yeah, I don't sugarcoat. You always gonna get me, and because that way I know that if you're leaning into me and you actually like me and want to be around me and you coming to my conference, that lets me know. I'm like, oh, you really do like me because I always will be myself. You know, so yeah.
I got you. And so in the spirit of ending the conversation, but just knowing that, you know, our mental health is definitely important. You know, we've spoken on the topics of suicide prevention, and I will be leaving information, you know, in the post as I advertise for this episode on how to get help and assistance in all those areas. You know, Phontaine, I thank you for being my special guest for episode 82. You know, you are a single mother like I am. And so, like that's just a special place for me anyway. And by the way, because I know when people hear me say that, yes, I do have a father who's active in my, kids' lives, but if your kids are with you over 90% of the time, you can still claim the fact that you are a single mom if you have full custody. So I just, I'm in this fight with you, when it comes to that. And so I hope that your conference blossoms and that women get the help that they need. They get the networking experiences, but they get that foundation in mental health, because we do so much. And when our kids depend on us, the majority of the time, we have to be in a mental space that is going to be productive and nurturing for them to be the best selves that they can be. And so this year, I'm going to let you promote it one more time. Give us a date. Give us what it's going to be about, where it's going to be, how to get tickets, and all that good stuff to your conference.
Yeah. So the name of my conference, again, is Women's Mental Health Day. It is a day full of networking, getting information about mental health. And I mean everything about mental health. But this year, we are going to focus in and lean in on mental health and the ways it affects our sleep, why we can't fall asleep, why we're not getting enough sleep, and the ways it affects our mental health, dealing with anxiety, dealing with stress. We're going to talk about everything that goes into mental health, dealing with our sleep, So with that being said, since that is the theme, we are having a pajama party. All the ladies will be in pajamas. We love a good slumber party. You know what I'm saying? And then on top of that, we like a good theme. You tell us the theme, we gonna come. So we are ladies. We come from the slumber. We invented the slumber party. So we're gonna have a good time, but also we're gonna get information from some amazing therapists, some amazing specialists and doctors. And I want everybody to come out. It's right here in Atlanta, Georgia. If you are in Atlanta, it's near the Battery. That's the Atlanta Braves Stadium. It's 10 minutes, less than 10 minutes. It's literally 10 minutes from the Battery. September 9th, the tickets are on sale right now. They will end August 1st. After August 1st, there will be no more tickets available. So August 1st, and you can click the link in my bio to get your tickets today. So yes, that's all the information about it.
Thank you so much. I hope it is a blast, and hopefully I can be there.
Yay.
I want to be there in my pajamas and all of that good stuff. And so I just want to go ahead and say thank you again, and I will definitely put that information in the promo for this particular episode in the description. And so everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. If you are catching the replay, you definitely can catch the replay over on YouTube and on all podcast platforms. Thank you so much for tuning in to episode 82 of the Jazzie Conversations with Jazz podcast with my special guest, Miss Phontaine Thompson. I will see you back here, same time and same day of the week, Monday at 7 p.m. on IG Live for episode 83. You guys have a good night.
Thank you.
You're welcome.